We are getting so super close to the release of the next-gen Xboxes. We are only 2 weeks away, and I'm absolutely hyped. So, we're going to have a couple of fun videos this week. Today's video, I'm just going to be covering a few things that have come up online. We've got an interview with Phil Spencer from Game Reactor, and I'm just going to be mentioning a couple of things about Xbox Game Studios. So let's get stuck into it. Let's get hyped with 2 weeks to go till next gen. Welcome back to Direckt Gaming. As always, I want to thank every single person here who's watching my videos, subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting, all that jazz. It is amazing to have great conversations in the comments and a really positive group of people to talk about next gen with. As you know, if you've watched me for any length of time, you know that, I cover Xbox mostly on the channel, pretty much, but I'm definitely not one to hate on the other side of things. So I appreciate everyone who's in the same camp who just wants positive videos. I enjoy playing on PlayStation. I enjoy playing on the Switch. That's what we want to do here, is talk about things we love, not things we hate. So let's ignore all the crap that we see online, because this is fun. We're about to hit a next generation of consoles that is looking more and more impressive every single day. And this is just for launch. Imagine what games are going to be like in a few years' time. So I'm excited. Thanks everyone for being positive as well in the comments. It's a great place to be. So let's get stuck into an interview from Magnus Groth Anderson over at gamereactor.eu. And he got to talk to Phil Spencer at length. It's a really great article. I'm going to link it, as always, in the description down below. And I'm not going to cover all of it. It's just a really good article, but I wanted to mention a few things because I love talking about Xbox Game Studios, and he gets into some interesting little tidbits of information about what we may be seeing soon. But there's a couple of quotes that I want to cover here. So, the question that's asked to him is, are you content with the current lineup now, or is there a chink in the armor somewhere? A certain genre, a certain type of studio that you feel is missing. And his response goes into some interesting points. So he's saying, if we look at what people are playing on Xbox, what Game Pass subscribers are playing, I think what is missing from our portfolio is casual content with a broad appeal. E-rated content, to use an ESRB rating, is not a strength for us. We obviously have Minecraft and we have some other franchises, but when I think about expanding the creative palette that our teams have, I think that's critically important. This is an interesting one, and I assume it's going to get a lot of conversation going online that, maybe he just wants casual games. I don't necessarily feel that way. I think he wants a broader appeal, like he says, and E-rated games can be anything from puzzle games to sports games to family games, multiplayer games, something like Fusion Frenzy, stuff like that anyone can play. I had a comment in my recent community post that asked about this, and I think Asobo would be a really great studio to bring in for something like that. Yeah, they made a Plague Tale, which is incredible. Play it if you haven't. It's such a great game. They've also made some interesting things for Microsoft in the past, including some kids games and some licensed games. So a team like Asobo that is so diverse in what they can do. Obviously, they're making Flight Sim, which is just insane, but they can really do anything by the looks of those teams there. So something like that would be really cool to see Asobo come into the fold. Now, I always kind of bring this up. I have no idea if they have ever stated that they want to not be indie anymore, but they've worked a lot with Microsoft in the past. So, they can always do partnerships without acquiring them as well. The next little bit, though, is very interesting. And, this is video game YouTube. We're going to take something very insignificant and turn it into a theory. And he says, teams that can build new franchises, tell new stories, those are always sought after. That's why I'm excited about projects like Starfield and the next Compulsion game, because I like teams that think about new creations. And frankly, as Game Pass continues to grow, we need to continue to feed that subscription. So with the growth that we're seeing, I expect we will constantly be in this mode of bringing more creators into the fold. This is an interesting quote. I am going to go out on a limb and say, I think one of the next games we may see from Xbox Game Studios may be a teaser for Compulsion's next game. And it sounds like, by what he's saying here, it'll be a brand new IP. I think we've heard that in the past. There's rumors that it's going to be a horror game with a bit of a dark and humorous tone. It's interesting, though, that he brings these up, and he will also talk about Compulsion later in the article, which I'm going to talk about a bit later on as well. But yes, interesting, mentioning Starfield. He also mentions in this article as well that he can't really say too much about Bethesda because the deal isn't done, and he doesn't want to be breaking any laws. He also mentions, and this is something really exciting for me because I love single player games, I love RPGs, and I love story games, and I even love walking simulators. I think they're lots of fun. But he's saying on single player games that are in Game Pass and having a more diverse lineup because there are so many multiplayer Microsoft titles, he says having games in the subscription that have a beginning, middle, and end, and then go on to play the next game, maybe those are single player narrative driven games, those games can be really strong for us in the subscription. In many ways, they're actually better than 1 or 2 games that are soaking up all the engagement in the subscription. I want a long tail of games, and I think the diversity of online multiplayer versus single player, we have to support the diversity there. And that's my goal. If anything, we'd like to see more single player games from our first party, just because over time we've kind of grown organically to be more multiplayer driven. This is awesome. This is why I strongly believe that Fable is not going to be an MMO like there were some reports about. We're going to have Avowed, which is going to be just a single-player RPG, Fable, single-player RPG, the Initiatives game, which I assume is going to be single-player, games like Psychonauts 2 from Double Fine, which is obviously single-player as well. So this is really great. I'm excited for this. I love single-player games, especially RPGs. So the lineup of games for the Xbox Game Studios teams is very exciting to me. Last thing I want to talk about is another little mention of compulsion, but also a good quote here. The interviewer asked Phil Spencer about what studios he's most excited to show content from that we haven't seen yet. And he says, I'm going to give you 2 if that's okay. One of them is Compulsion. When I first saw We Happy Few, there was an art style and a setting that I thought was really unique. It's a young studio and they are still growing and learning the craft of what they are as a team. But looking at what they're going to do next, I love their ability to create new worlds and unique settings. So definitely talking about a new IP. And he says the other one I would say is The Initiative, which is our studio in Santa Monica. I've played what they are doing next. Just the talent we have been able to bring into that studio led by Daryl Gallagher is amazing. Especially when you bring such an amazing group of creators together and create such a culture that Daryl is working to create there. I'm incredibly excited to be able to both form a new studio to attract the talent we have, and the game that they're working on will be fun to get to announce. Very, very cool. Little bit of excitement for The Initiative. I really hope they talk about what this game is soon. I also sit on the side of let these teams take their time. You don't hear a lot of talk about crunch and bad working practices when it comes to Microsoft. So if that means they're going to take a little bit longer to create games than some other teams that are crunching to get their games out there, I'm all for it. I'm very excited for The Initiative. I'm pretty excited for almost everything Xbox Game Studios are doing. So that's super exciting. Again, we are 2 weeks away from Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S releasing, and this is so exciting. Let me know how excited you are. If you've got your pre-order in, if you're going to be there on day one, let me know down below. I'm going to be trying to use the community tab a bit more often, so jump in there, say g'day, and we'll talk games, we'll talk Xbox. If you like this and if you like what I do, I'd love for you to like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I'm trying to grow this channel slowly but surely, and next gen is going to be an exciting time. So if you enjoy anything I do, that would really mean a lot to me. So thank you all so much for watching. Let's chat in the comments below, and until next time, peace.